Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.
Well, welcome everyone to our Wednesday evening Dharma talk. We're going to dive into joyous effort. And I'll pop open the text here. Here we go. Take up joyous perseverance, which when engaged in meditation or when working for the good of the world knows untiring joy alone, even should the body fall to dust. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Untiring joy. No matter what we're doing, even if our body's falling apart. Yeah. And that's from the seventh Dalai Lama. All right, well, let's see what we got here. Joyous effort is being delighted and enthusiastic about doing what is virtuous. When practiced with bodhicitta, this great compassion, it is the perfection of joyous effort. One of the tragedies of samsara is that many beings are unaware that virtue is the cause of happiness. So, although that is what they dearly wish for, they avoid creating its causes. Instead, they spend much of their time creating non-virtue, the cause of unwanted suffering. Shantideva says, although wishing to be rid of misery, they run toward misery itself. Although wishing to have happiness, like an enemy, they ignorantly destroy it. That's the whole prison of samsara there. I want to feel good, so I do things to feel good, which undermines my ability to feel good about who I am. It's just the difference between a short-term pleasure and a long-term sense of well-being, that delayed gratification, which in the previous introduction to the recording is we can actually have a more instantaneous reward doing things we feel good about if we bring in awareness to its value. It doesn't have to be a delayed gratification. Because, to be honest with you, that takes too much time. Right? uh, that's the old saying, instant gratification, the only problem with it is it's not quick enough. And delayed gratification is very doable when you recognize that what I'm doing to get there is already meaningful. I'm in a step in the right direction. This already feels good. I'm doing something I feel good about now. Yeah, it'll be a better future, but knowing I'm headed in that direction feels pretty good right now. I mean, when I get an impulse and habit to engage in one of these three lazinesses we're going to talk about, the desire to get caught up in something else, and I go, no, this is what's more meaningful, and I resist that. That's like nailing it, man. Good. Doing something right. Just walk away from the cherry pie, John. It's going to be okay. Yeah. And then there's a choice and a novelty, because the mind's looking for the interesting, right? It's looking for something interesting. It's always looking for novelty, you know. And so what I find novel is a free will. That's a novelty that I can make a healthy decision when my mind and body saying, no, dude, we're heading for the hot chocolate. I'm just gonna be stuck on that for a bit. Yeah. And if I recognize the novelty of that, I was like, I just made a choice. I have free will. I'm doing something I feel good. I'm in the driver's seat of my own car today. of this body. The mind-body habitual autopilot is not going to drag me down that path in this moment. It might in the next one, but not this one, this moment. This moment, I'm going to do something I feel good about. And then there's reward there. There's a chance for recognition, for value. You know, what's novel is being in the driver's seat of my own life instead of the conditioned, habituated impulses and compulsions and desires that arise. And I get a choice. They arise, but I get a choice. And balance too. Balance. Have some fun in this. Pull that text back up. So that quote there is that so much of our life is really confusing a temporary pleasure with lasting happiness. So much of our life is conditioned to think that if I get this job, have this relationship, have, you know, these kinds of things in my life, then I'll be happy and whole. And instead of filling a hole, that's what we're doing is we're digging one. We're digging more craving. We're digging this next thing. And I guess I shouldn't have pulled this up yet. I was just doing it to remind me. But how much of our life, as soon as you have everything you want and it's wonderful, does your mind go to, okay, what else do I want? Or what else do I need? Or what else would be interesting? Or what else would be fun? And so instead of contentment and well-being with what we've already cultivated, the mind's going, okay, that's all good. What's next? Now I'm chasing something. So instead of filling a hole, I keep digging a hole. And the real opportunity is to heal the hole. That's meaningful. I don't need to fill it. I don't need to dig any further. How about I heal the hole and recognize the value of what's already here? This opportunity of this rare and precious human birth favorable to Dharma practice, to the truth, to engaging in a meaningful life. Healing the hole. So we normally feel delighted about pleasurable activities like going on a holiday, dining in a nice restaurant, going to Tom's house for a dinner party with a homemade carrot cake. Whew, that was good. Got sidetracked there. Dining in a nice restaurant, listening to our favorite music, spending time with friends, swimming or skiing. You notice they're listing all the activities that none of the nuns are doing at the monastery, I'm guessing. However, the enthusiasm we have for these activities is not joyous effort unless, key point, unless our motivation is a virtuous one, such as bodhicitta. In contrast, those aspiring for enlightenment are joyful to do virtuous deeds like learning about and meditating on the Lam Rim, helping others, making offerings, and practicing the other perfections. Their enthusiasm arises from knowing that virtue is the cause of genuine happiness. In particular, the sublime state of a Buddha in which one has the ability to lead all other beings out of samsara and to enlightenment as well. So just backtracking, can you do those other activities with a good motivation? Yeah. It doesn't mean you have to go hang out on a lumpy couch like Chris and Kimberly are right now, torturing themselves through a Dharma teaching just to survive. Never mentioned how uncomfortable their couch was. But they're sticking it out. So, yeah, you go, Chris. Yes, durable. Uh, he's waving. He says, so the motivation is always key. The motivation. And what would it be like if I was able to know my motivation for whatever it is I'm doing in any given moment? If I was able to do that, then pretty much everything I do could be cultivating virtue. Walking down the street, even noticing pick up some trash or, being cautious, I often will put coming to a complete stop at a red light. That's virtuous. It's safe for people. And I'm guilty of this, but trying to not have the cell phone, put that away when we're driving. They're cracking down on I-25 south of Denver and so many accidents from distraction and just really being aware, to answer any messages before you get in the car, do that. That's virtuous. How we spend our money, what we do, how we shop, how we engage with each other. And yeah, the activities we do to be healthy and well. Oops, pushed the wrong button there. Keep clicking on the wrong one. Okay. So happiness is a conditioned phenomenon and does not occur without its causes. So if we want to be happy and help others experience happiness, we need to create virtue. Virtue is mainly positive mental states such as faith, compassion, loving kindness, as well as the actions motivated by these states like giving, ethical conduct, studying the Dharma, meditating, and so forth. Practicing joyous effort means doing these things happily and consistently. The Lam Rim explains joyous effort by way of several points, its benefits, factors that hinder it, favorable conditions for developing it, its different types, and how to practice. The meditation presented here covers the first two of these points, contemplating the benefits of joyous effort and learning how to counteract its chief obstacle, laziness. So I'm going to keep coming back to a main point. Hang on here. Let me get to the next piece. Yeah, okay. I think intellectually, we can kind of get the idea that I'll feel better about who I am when I do things I feel good about. I mean, intellectually, and what's good about that is it's instantaneous. It it doesn't have to be a delayed gratification. It's I can recognize that I'm making a choice that I'll feel good about tomorrow, and when I'm helping someone, that I'm going to feel good about that tomorrow. I can get that. I can have it in the instant. This is playing out on a much bigger uh, framework, though. And that is the attitudes, the thoughts, the activities I'm engaging in today are creating my future experience. And this is what we're kind of getting to when we think about genuine happiness and well-being, is that I'm already conditioned, you know, I'm pretty conditioned. If I just even look at this one life, from my experiences from early childhood, from being a little baby, from how much I was held, not held, some of the adverse childhood experiences. I always laugh when I say adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. It's a therapeutic term that kind of evaluate your how many adverse childhood experiences you had. I just laugh because I'm pretty sure we all had some adverse childhood experiences. Uh, and how much we've been loved and cared for and how many things have been helpful and but we've been conditioned, right? And we're conditioned by our cultures, right? By the foods we eat, by what we think might be tasty. People in France think snails are good, some of us may not. Uh, and the types of things that I don't want to get into the cheese Tibetans eat. That's scary. But to them it's delicious. So we're conditioned, right? So Neuroscience and a lot of the researchers now are starting to understand and recognize that consciousness and the brain are, different things. A lot of debate about whether one emerges from the other, and so forth. But there's an understanding now, and it really fits with the brain being a receiver of consciousness. So it's kind of like it's what configured, if you think about it, our kind of terminology in the world we're living in, the software we have, right? You know, it's taking in the data, the information, and then it, based on our own software conditioning, how we're raised, our culture, what we've done, then how I see Sam is going to be through that configuration. And Damon, how I see you. And then all of you are going to see a different Sam, a different Damon, and so forth, due to our configurations, right? So it takes it in, makes sense of it, then we have an experience. And so all of our life has been configured by the traumas, by the joys, by the love, by the lack of love, by the things that we've done, the fears we've had, the things that we've engaged in have all kind of conditioned us to what's pleasurable, not pleasurable, and what kind of people we like, what kind of people I don't like, what kind of jokes we think are funny, you know, so forth. And then when the data comes in, the phenomena hits us, we have an experience, pleasant, unpleasant, kind of neutral, not so interesting. And what's being pointed out here is the more that you can engage in virtue especially with the motivation of compassion, all the data that's coming in is going to be converted in a way that is much more pleasant. It's much more pleasant. It's much more uh, resilient. It's just, a lot more joy, a lot more genuine happiness, a sense of worth and value and connection. And so things that used to be irritating, you don't find so irritating. Yeah, you become interested in other things that become more interesting that once were boring. We're participating, we're shaping ourselves by what we attend to, by how we attend to it, by what we do and what our attitudes we cultivate. And the more that you do that, then over the years and long term, there's so much more freedom. There's so much more freedom. And you could potentially get to a point where you recognize everything that's unfolding is nothing other than an opportunity to improve the quality of your life and the lives of you come in contact with. Whether you get to go skiing today or not, whether this happens or that happens. And but everything's an opportunity to bring meaning and purpose. And then there's just so much more freedom and flow, and we recognize we're not stuck. We're not stagnant. We're in a flow of becoming. And then, it becomes very joyous, our effort of virtue. Am I doing things that are, really cultivating the qualities of the person I want to be or not, and the life I want to live or not? So there's a more immediate that we can utilize, but over the long term, life just becomes so much more free. We clear ourselves of a lot of afflictive, unhealthy habits and views, which have, the visual I like to think of as just a dirty windshield. How I experience you is all through this lens of conditioning. And as I engage in virtue, it clears it more, it clears it more, it clears it more. And I start to understand you're not the cause of my frustration. Right? That does not compute. It doesn't compute. You can't be the cause of my frustration. It doesn't even make sense after a while because you've experienced that that's never been the case. The cause is here in me. I think you should be different. I don't even know why you show up without cherry pie. I just think it's rude. Mm-hmm. And you know, um, or hot chocolate. And I am so good with both. So But the real cause is me, right? You're just triggering something. How I'm experiencing it has a lot to do with me. So as we start to experience that more, we stop chasing and trying to control the world out there to make me happy. And I start recognizing what's going to actually the way I even see you has a lot to do with how I'm attending to you and the framework with which I'm expecting my happiness to come from you behaving in a way I would like you to behave so I could be happy. So if you go back to the core, what's the real core root of genuine happiness? It has nothing to do with you behaving for me. It has to do with how I have conditioned and cultivated these qualities within me and understanding that. And then when we do, then that's the whole point at the start. But if it's just a philosophical idea, it's not very helpful. Right? It's just not very helpful. But if I can, well, take it as a working hypothesis in my life, and there's nothing at this point, we can go through all kinds of lessons from all kinds of cultures and spiritual traditions. And basic Christian one, you reap what you sow, right? Kind of like karma. What you plant and grow and nurture, well, that becomes the way I view the world. Reap what you sow. My little league coach, which I quote quite often, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. I mean, I was taught that when I was a little kid, and yet I get caught up on wanting to win the game, right? But it doesn't matter, right? We win some, we lose some. What matters is how we show up for life. So these lessons have been around in all our cultures, in all of our wisdom tradition. It's just universally been taught. So why not take it as why don't we try it out and take it for a spin? Okay, my genuine happiness, well-being comes from doing things that are virtuous, based in compassion, understanding. And then I get to do that more, and I might actually start feeling good about the things I'm doing in that time. But over time, the conditioning, the software, I've got different software, a different way of viewing the world, and how I experience you is very different. And I'll tell you what, it's very different today from a few decades ago. You would not be seeing this at all. And and so everything shifts. And so when we recognize that we're not only radically transforming our lives, we're contributing to the world and building a better future for ourselves and how we engage in the world, then wow, it's pretty important. It's wonderful. It's meaningful. But it's really grounded in adopting that working hypothesis and seeing if we can make it real. Do we notice? What are the results? It doesn't mean I'll get the car I want. Doesn't mean I'll get the relationship I want. It's like some of you know my story about losing my daughter due to my addiction, and I was not worthy to be a father back then, and my own daughter had to be removed from me because so she'd be safe and have a life because of my addictions and behaviors back then. And then I changed my life. I got sober at 84 and clean, and changed my life. And I wanted to be a dad again. I wanted to find my daughter. I always wanted to be one. I just wasn't very worthy. And a couple of years in, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm a good person. Try to find my daughter, can't find her. And I was upset. And I had the idea that, I deserved to be a dad again. And a wise old guy told me, doesn't work like that. Just because you change your life doesn't mean you get what you want. Doesn't mean she comes back in your life. It means, though, if she's ever put back in your life, you can be a father worth finding. That was true. And that was inspiring. And that's what I did. I spent the next 5, 6 years. I felt it was the least I could do for her, as if she's ever put in my life, be a good human being worth finding. And it did work out. When she was 8.5, I got to meet my daughter's best day of my life, and raised her ever since. And it's been a joyful thing. But the point is, I may not have, but I could be a father worth finding if that was ever to be. And that's why this life thing is it's not, I'm not doing this to get those things, but to be the person that can deserve those things, and embrace those things. And then things unfold. Yeah. So I get a little emotional. We're moving on, man. Uh, so let's get to these three kinds of laziness. So these things get in the way. Um, and they'll water it down, I think, here a little bit. I might kick it up a notch. We'll see. So there's three kinds of laziness that prevent us from doing things that are actually meaningful in our lives. And I'm pretty sure the first one we could all notice, procrastination. Laziness of procrastination. I'll get to that tomorrow, man. I'm going to get my stuff together tomorrow. Yeah, I'm busy now. I'm going to, pick up that book that's been on my shelf for 3 years. I had a guy once call me, because he read the first book. And he goes, "Yeah, man, I bought it 6 years ago." Sitting there gathering dust. COVID hit. It was COVID that made him read the book. He's like, "This stuff's good." I should have picked it for it. And I'm sitting there thinking, how many books do I have on my shelf I haven't touched? I have a lot. And I'm thinking, yeah. So anyway, we put it off. We'll get to it. We we sometimes wake up intending to meditate, but then start doing other things. Before we know it, the day's over and we haven't done any practice. Or we may plan to get serious about Dharma study and practice after the kids have grown up and we've retired from our job, but we can't be sure we'll live that long. As a result of this type of laziness, I'll do it after kids are raised, grown, all that. There is the risk that our life ends before we have been able to genuinely practice the Dharma. Consider what a great loss that would be. Contemplating impermanence, death, and the precious human life are the best antidotes to this form of laziness. We have a priceless opportunity to create the causes for good, rebirth, liberation, and enlightenment that could end at any time, even today, and there's no guarantee that we will obtain such ideal conditions for practice in our next life. Therefore, we need to use our time wisely now. And so that's really the main antidote applied to procrastination is you may not be here tomorrow. And I've had, different approaches because, it's easy to say I may not be here tomorrow, but then the mind says, yeah, I probably will be. Maybe not, right? We don't know. And sometimes we get a real jolt of that, near-death experiences, diagnosis, different things, sometimes friends. And so it still can be very intellectual. But in truth, right, we all know death is certain, time of death uncertain. We all have a terminal illness. It's called life. And if the doctors were accurate on the death certificate, they would put cause of death is birth. We have a bunch of other things to put on it. So if this day is only coming once, they're in limited supply. I don't know if I'll have tomorrow. Let's make today meaningful. Let's be the person we want to be now. And can I, for me, I often think tonight when I lay my head down, if I make it that far, I want to be able to put my head down feeling good about who I was today. That's pretty simple. for me. And what is the ultimate thing is to die without regret, to know that I used my life in a way I feel good about. And then as soon as we say that, we can easily put a lot of pressure on ourselves and go, oh my God, I've been blowing it, man. I've been wasting a lot of my time and I'm not such a good practitioner. And I'm not, we can do a whole bunch of self-criticism. And then I like to point out there's no bigger waste of time than criticizing yourself about wasting time. I mean, that's a waste of time. And it's recognizing, yeah, given what I'm doing, what can I do today that is helpful? And we just do a little bit more each day. But self-criticism is the biggest waste of time I think we can have. There's a time to sit down, get some popcorn, watch a Netflix. I mean, if you don't have cherry pie, I guess some popcorn, whatever. And have some fun, right? Go skiing, do these things. But we can do these things with balance, with an understanding, and where we're at, meet ourselves there. But if we keep putting all those things before our practice, or we put those things before calling our friend, or doing that other thing that was really important, a whole life can come and go. You know, and we didn't do that thing. So each day to take a little time to recognize, this day is not coming. I used to collect weird deaths, like you hear stories about just unusual deaths. Somebody drove a car into somebody's house, and they were sitting there watching TV, and like 1 minute you're watching TV, now you're not there. There was a guy, I think it was a woman actually, walking on the beach, headset, all that, and a plane crashed, and on a beach, took them out. And just weird stuff, and people die young, and just to make me realize, I'm not safe walking on a beach. I'm not safe. I mean, not to be neurotic about it, but just the idea. I'm not in a war-torn area or war zone. Uh, but just to remind myself, and I would do this in the morning. Um, one of the things that I get to do is, and I've mentioned this a few times, is I drink my coffee every morning out of a thermos, from my brother-in-law. It's a thermos my brother-in-law gave me last time I saw him alive. I was a monk, and he came out, visited monks, and he knew I liked coffee a lot, and he gave me his Stanley thermos. And shortly after he died, and my sister was just walking with him in the park, and he dropped dead, had a heart attack, died. I just walk in the park with her, and I drink out of that thermos every morning. Yeah, it's helpful. So it's just, for me, the key is it should inspire you to live, not worry about dying. Because if we learn how to live in a way we feel good about, there's no need to worry about dying. It'll come, it'll go, and you're ready for it. There's a Thich Nhat Hanh book, yeah, no death, no fear, something like that. But it's like, yeah, if you're ready, you're ready. It's going to come at some point. So it's about being realistic instead of telling ourselves stories that make today a good day to die. It's it, you know. So that's one, procrastination. The other one, they worded quite nicely, and I'll change it. Oh, Carla, do you have your hand up there? Sorry.
Yeah, I figured you wanted a
Oh,
break.
hang on. I have the speakers muted because my computer was making a thing. So let me unmute our end. Okay, go ahead.
I figured you wanted a break.
Always.
So I think I got this from a podcast I was listening to you from a previous lesson. And reading from the book, the quote was, it was talking about death. And it said that you can accumulate millions of karma seeds in a lifetime. And at the time of death, one of those seeds ripens and propels you to the next rebirth. And I'm thinking, man, that's a kind of a roulette wheel right there to hope the right seed ripens to propel you to fortunate rebirth, but I suppose if you stack the roulette wheel with virtuous karma, then your odds are better. But it just struck me that one seed is going to ripen, and that's going to be your fate for your next life. That's how I read it anyway. Or
Okay.
understood it.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll rephrase it a bit, but I'm really glad you're bringing this up because I kind of was skating on the third point. Death is certain, time of death is certain. What matters at the time of death is how you lived your life, right? So, the imprints. And so, we have all these, karmic imprints and habits and tendencies and propensities. And it's not just one, but they'll be dominant. There'll be a sort of dominant, attitude that will have a larger impact than the others. It's still all many, many. Uh, and so the advice, is at the time of death. If you can have compassion, or you can go with ease, not fear, not angry, not you want this dominant attitude to be one that's joyful and free or compassionate. And that's why a lot of people doing prayers, they're calm, they're spiritual, they're at peace. The transition would be nice. And so that's important because it will help propel those last sort of attitudes and thoughts will be this entry point, have a greater impact on your transition. And so at the time of death, it's really nice to have it be a nice, peaceful, environment. And whatever somebody's faith is, like my mom, she was Catholic. So, we're doing the rosary, and, I'm a Buddhist monk. We're doing the rosary. We're doing that. We're having her calm, and, none of my siblings have told me, yeah, we're not going to cry or wail, or, we're just, it's good to go, Mom. We're ready. We're here for you, and we're okay, and do our prayers. And, we want that comfort zone. Uh, and that's really valuable. And then again, the idea that I can be preparing now because at the time of death, we're not always that clear to think, like Jetsuma Tenzin gives a little thing. She's a couple nuns, so she's a nun. Guess they're out doing a bunch of nonsense. And they're driving around. Yeah, I got a couple giggles out of that. That was good. So and and the car took this thing, went into a ditch. And they had two other nuns. They're like in the Chinese tradition, they're like, oh, Amitofu, Amitofu, that's the Pure Land. Like they're into prayer, like it's gone. I think she said something like, oh shit. And she's like, they're all spiritual. And I was like, she was shouting something else out. And so, but she said how trained they were because they've been, cultivating that at Nami-Onna Tofu. And, they're just so we can be conditioning ourselves to not be fearful. We can be conditioning ourselves um, to, to be like not afraid of it. And, my experience with that was just going to become ordained as a monk. And I'm on a plane. We're going to India. Going to become a monk. I'm sitting with a nun, and then my teacher's up in the front. And then I went to the road behind me because it was empty, and I was going to take a nap, kind of spread out. And at the last minute, I put my seatbelt on. Thinking, oh, I should have best. And then I woke up to the plane in free fall. I mean, I woke up to watching a guy bounce off the ceiling of the plane. Like, it was a little shocking. He's just bouncing off the landing 4 miles up, free falling. I'm kind of coming to it. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, a little bit of like, I guess we were done, like, and then realized I could do nothing about it. And then there was just calm. It was kind of nice. I was calm. Man, I just let go. This is it. it caught, like hundreds of feet. I don't know how many. And then it started bouncing around and then came back in. And, but man, it was weird because everyone was screaming and, there's people around the floor. Somebody broke their thigh. I mean, because you should buckle up. When they tell you put your seatbelt on, put your seatbelt on. Um, and yeah, even the flight attendants were terrified. Like, nobody was calming you down afterwards. They were freaked out. And but eventually we did land, and everybody was hugging each other. It was a big party. Uh, and but that was a moment of calm. So we can get used to this, that each day is a gift, and make today a good way to transition. And then, at the time of death, really to have a sense of purpose and meaning in transition. And that's really helpful. Ashley, you had your hand up.
Yeah, you were kind of answered my question. I was going to ask, what do you do with that fear? Like like you described in the airplane of, because I kind of feel like at the moment of death, if I'm kind of in a comfortable bed, then it wouldn't be so fearful.
Mhm.
But like an accident or a quick violent death scares me. How how do you
Yeah, violent death would be really hard, I imagine.
yeah.
Yeah, because
How do you deal with that fear?
well, it's hard to say because we're not there, but we don't want to be fear of being fearful. You know what I mean? Like here we are dreaming up scenarios that may never happen. So, what I've noticed though is that the more we live in this way, there's just more and more opportunity of having confidence and resilience in whatever arises. And the presence, I mean, I've been in a few violent situations since I've lived this new way. And it's interesting, I've been able to be pretty calm and not have the guy rip my head off, though he could easily have. And um, but we just get calmer and those situations change our experience of them. We develop that. Especially when we recognize that, what really matters is how we show up. Yeah, yeah. So it's a slow, gradual process. Hopefully you will never be in one of those situations. Uh, but the serenity, that we can cultivate in in this, it just becomes someday it takes time. Yeah.
Thanks.
Chris.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry, I hit mute. I was trying to put your arm down, so you got to unmute again. You got long
Okay,
arms.
there we go. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was thinking like, this all the meditations on death that are really useful. I think it's like, it's kind of like a rehearsal. Like anytime, you do something for the first time, it's generally really scary and then you get kind of like, exposure to it and it becomes comfortable. I think that's why judgment here, but so many people are afraid of death is because they don't contemplate it. So I think like the preparation, before you do some great athletic event or some emotional event, like some preparation so that we develop some tolerance to it. At least for me, that seems, I like the analogy of like an athletic, something athletic that's going to be scary. It's like you practice for it so that when you do it, it's not as scary. Like when we watch, whatever that the Olympics, the guy doing the front flip or the back flip, it's like, yeah, that's really dangerous, but it's not, he practiced in a foam pit a bunch of times or whatever, so it's not like he's going into it without any preparation so we can remain calm. So I think that like the meditation on death can be really useful so that when it comes, we've had some rehearsal.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, there is a 9-point death meditation. There's 3 points and 3 set points. And that first one is death is certain. And, you kind of realize there's no one you've ever met. We're all going to be there. And time of death uncertain. So I kind of talked about how that can come at unusual times. And then the last one is at the time of death, only Dharma can help. And that means how you lived your life, and if you spend some time recognizing that, your life's meaningful. And so some people here may believe in multiple lives, in rebirth. Some people here may not be aware, into that. And some people are just, don't know, right? And so it's not that you have to adopt it. You kind of reflect on that. If you, what I found is regardless of what somebody's belief system there is, at the time of death, what matters is always how you lived your life. Did you live it well? Do you have regret or not? That's going to help the transition. And so whether one thinks that they'll have a next life or not have a next life, we can start living life today, making today a good day to die, making today, if it is today, that I lived well, I did okay. I called my sister on her birthday. That was Monday. And, call your sister, right? You do a birthday, you do the things. Not that it was a hard effort, but, I didn't forget, right? So what if we just make every day, that day? And then what happens is you really lessen the fear because, yeah, it could be today. Thought about it. And then it really eases over time. But we do need to practice it. So that taking time every morning, reflecting on death at certain, time of death uncertain. And, at the time of death, what will really matter? What really matters is how I show up today, how I live today, the person I am today. And then that trajectory can carry you to the next life. Yeah.
Thinking about Chris's comment about familiarization, I think also, I feel fortunate. I've had a couple experiences of really peaceful deaths to attend to, and so it gives me that foundation and that familiarity. But the other thing, because I have an elderly mother, I've been very curious about this topic about how to be with someone at the time of death. And I will just share that what's been really helpful for me is there's a text by Lama Zopa Rinpoche called Caring for the Dying and Dead. And it includes prayers and stuff, but it also talks about how to be around and how to hold that space and having a peaceful mind. And I'm hoping that does give me more familiarity. So in a future situation that will be with me. But I offer that because that's been helpful to me.
You want to tell everybody that book again?
Yeah, it's by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. You can find it, I think, on FPMT store, and it's called Caring for the Dying and Dead. Yeah.
Okay. Rather than try to rush through the next two, it's a good place to wrap. And the big piece here is it's joyous effort. It's, really honoring what you're doing. That's good. That's meaningful. It's taking some time to think about what's meaningful and how you want to show up today. And so every day to have that practice of recognizing, this opportune physical form more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. You only gain its like the once, so hard to get, so easily destroyed. It's like a lightning bolt in the sky. So that's, those of you who do the morning practice, that's every morning. This opportune physical form is worth more than a wish-granting gem. A wish-granting gem could get you anything you want. You want the car, want the whatever. What it cannot do is give you self-worth. What it cannot do is give you realization. It cannot do that. It cannot wake you up. I think right now everything has ripened for us to have the complete directions on how to fully engage in our lives. It's fully available. Everything has ripened for that. You only gain it's like the once. The day that we're beginning, it's only coming once, never again. These situations, never again. It's like a lightning bolt in the sky. So when you realize you have a treasure of the life that you have and all the resources to live it in the way most meaningful, literally to awakening, completely available, only coming once, like a lightning bolt in the sky. Contemplate this and you'll realize all worldly actions are but wind of chaff. All those 8 worldly concerns, they're not going to make you happiness again, chasing that. And night and day, you must extract some essence of this life. That means some essence. You know what I mean? We're not perfect. I'm going to do a little good, a little merit, a little wisdom. I'm going to make today meaningful. I'm going to do something I feel good about. I, yogi, practice in this way. You wanting liberation should do the same. Those 2 verses every day. And so that's a little time to reflect on the opportunity that comes only once, called today. Yeah. So we'll leave it there. And we'll pick up with the other 2 lazinesses next week. But just want to point out one of them. The next one that's coming is the laziness of busyness. We're too busy doing a bunch of other things to do what's actually important. And think about that, how much, what are we doing? Laziness of busyness is what I'm doing, keeping me from doing what's actually meaningful. I'll just leave it at that, and we'll go ahead and dedicate the merit and the wisdom of our time together. A lot of things we could have been doing on Wednesday evening, but I think we're making good use of a rare and precious human birth favorable to Dharma practice. So, just for context, the opportunity that we've come together makes a difference in the world, and we can dedicate our time, energy, the merit, the virtue that we have cultivated in our own lives for the benefit of others. May our collective efforts find their way into the world, helping alleviate suffering, promoting peace, care, loving kindness for all those who are struggling right now. And may we also dedicate this time and energy for our own personal spiritual development, that we may recognize our own Buddha nature, be of greatest benefit to all. May we extract some essence of these teachings in ways that are meaningful to us. And with that context, those who'd care to join in the dedication merit, you can join me. By this merit may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.